I'm Lauren Green, and you're in the strategy room. Russia's move to lift its ban on delivery of sophisticated air defense missiles to Iran is drawing increased criticism from Israel and the U.S. There is concern this deal could disrupt ongoing talks over Iran's nuclear program. Joining us to discuss is Kyle Shideler from the Center for Security Policy. Welcome, Kyle.
Hi, thank you for having me, Lauren.
It's great to have you here. So how big of an issue is this arms deal?
Well, I think it's important from the Iranian and the Russian perspective. I think it's less likely to impact the deal because I don't think the administration is willing to allow it to impact the deal, although it probably should. The Iranians have been looking for these missiles since as early as 2007. The Russians want to supply them, but pressure from the U.S. and Israel was able to cause the Russians to hold off on that. Now, with the discussions in Switzerland, there's really no leverage, and so the Russians have no incentive not to deliver these weapons.
Well, one of the things that should we be concerned, should this be a red flag that perhaps the Russians and the Iranians are working some backdoor deals?
Well, we know for a fact that they have been openly discussing an oil for goods deal for some time now. The Russians have said that that deal is in full effect, and they're ready to go forward with it. So while we've been discussing the parameters for the nuclear deal, the Russians and the Iranians have been discussing the aftermath after the sanctions are lifted, what they're planning to do.
So what could be Russia's motive in this? Because one of the things Iran or Israel talked about is that this whole nuclear negotiation just legitimized Iran. So what is the motive here?
Well, I think unfortunately it did legitimize Iran, and so as a result, the Russians have a couple of things that they're considering. One is that with the lifting of the sanctions, their one-to-one relationship with Iran may now change. They may see other countries getting involved with Iran, trying to do deals as well. So the Russians are trying to get an early jump in order to establish themselves as Iran's primary trading partner. They're issuing statements making clear how they stood by Iran when the other countries were ganging up on it, in their view. And so they're trying to make clear early on that Iran is going to be a client for trade and weapons sales and so on and so forth for the Russians. For the Iranians, I think they're also trying to hammer out that this deal is going to permit the sale of weapons and so on and so forth, that sanctions are going to be removed and that this will be permissible. And this enables them to harden their security so that if they choose at a later date to back out of the deal, to eject inspectors, etc., they are now in a much superior position to what they were in prior to the deal and the lifting of sanctions.
Of course, that brings up the obvious question, like, how could this deal impact Iran's nuclear talks, and does it actually put it on a different kind of course?
Well, I think it ought to, but I don't think it will. There has been no discussion so far regarding anything other than just the nuclear component and the enrichment process. There hasn't been discussion about Iran's ballistic missile program. There hasn't been discussion about Iran supporting terrorists and terror proxies around the globe. I mean, look at the situation in Yemen right now, where you have the U.S. trying to move in to stop Iranian weapon exports to the Houthi rebels. So all of these things will become dramatically more difficult to do in the aftermath of this nuclear deal. But none of them were considered within the discussion itself. It was only about the nuclear side.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Kyle, for being with us.
Lauren, thank you for having me.
All right. And check out FoxNews.com for more on the Iran nuclear talks. I'm Lauren Green, and thanks for watching.